Hey, real quick, before we get into that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any marketing nuggets. Enjoy the show.
We had influencers from all over, like, the New Yorks, the LAs, the random states in between. It's just finding like a variety of people. And it isn't even just who their audiences are. It's really like who they are as a person. And do these influencers reflect like the hangout spirit?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a fantastic episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. I'm here joined by Emily Diament.
There we go.
For all y'all out there.
There we go.
Of Diament PR. And so fantastic to have you joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Be back since I've technically been here to shoot another podcast before.
Oh, man, you just podcasting it up. Hot dang. Well, we're happy to have you again. Today, you're a PR specialist. And right now, the time we're in is the summertime.
Yes.
And so what better thing to talk about than PR, in the summertime in New Orleans. But also, first of all, how, before we even get there, I'm curious from your perspective how PR has really evolved now that we're, several years out from COVID, and that really shook up the game.
Totally. I mean, honestly, we are still not where we were before COVID.
That's crazy.
The post-COVID struggle is totally real and is very, very slowly, inching its way out. But COVID really put a damper on everything. It obviously, every type of business was affected.
Yeah.
Restaurants were closing, festivals were canceling, artists weren't releasing music. I mean, every single type of business, but those being the ones that I work with specifically, everyone was affected, which obviously affects everybody financially. And then, that even strung into the media being affected. Obviously, publications need money to survive as well.
Yeah.
Funds weren't coming in because businesses were not thriving. And so that led to a lot of layoffs.
Yeah.
And with a lot of layoffs, there comes writers being spread incredibly thin. Writers that used to only focus on food or only focus on music are now having to write for other beats, or it might just be one writer covering this music beat. So the types of content that they used to put out, they don't have the freedom to do that anymore because they're having to do it all.
Yeah.
So then it was just coverage just started dwindling where they weren't producing as much because their teams weren't as big.
Yeah.
Announcements that felt really major weren't getting as much publicity as they used to. So then it just kind of became a matter of managing your clients' expectations, where even if this announcement feels like it should get so much press, it just might not get as much anymore, just kind of the way that it's working.
Right.
So it, you had to start pivoting and thinking of other ways that you can promote these brands.
Yeah. I mean, that's wild. I mean, especially too, how, with all of these changes, what are some of the strategies that you've kind of had to start to shift and morph into based off of these changes?
I mean, I feel like social's always been, or not always has been, but over the last couple of years and really over the last decade has been such a big tool when it's come to PR. But I feel like ever since COVID, it's just really become an even bigger tool. There's so many wonderful content creators and influencers out there that are willing to work with you to help promote your brand. And a lot of times it can be a really mutually beneficial relationship if both sides are helping promote each other. So that's definitely been something that we've leaned on a lot. It's a great way to work with people that are local to you or national people that are visiting, and to promote your brand with a low budget. In a lot of instances, you can provide a really nice top-notch experience in exchange for coverage, to where it would, financially equal what you would normally pay someone. And that's worked out really well too. And, the media is still there, and it's maybe not thriving as much as it used to be, but there's still a lot of opportunities there. It's just, you now have to be a lot more creative. It's not just putting out a basic announcement. It's, okay, I have this announcement. How can I cater this to each specific writer or each specific outlet to make it newsworthy enough to them? So I think it's just a lot more strategy goes into each pitch or each call or, each ask. And to ensure then you can get the maximum exposure from them by targeting like what that specific writer does best. Which might be a full length feature, or it might be inclusion in a roundup, or, you know, just kind of depending on like what everyone's doing now that there's been this big change in our world.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely interesting too, because it's like all of these things are going on. And, you know, one thing I want to throw into the mix, because we, like I said at the beginning, is summertime, you know, like how are you like, how did they like, is there anything that's changed? Because obviously everybody's been used to like, okay, well, you know, summertime's the off season, so we have to figure out something to do there. But now how has that even changed on top of all this?
I mean, you know, the music world, things kind of go on. You know, one of my festivals, Hangout Fest, was just a couple weeks ago, and that's kind of like the kickoff to summer. So that's never changed for them. They love when the summer comes because that means that it's the best. But in the restaurant world, you know, summer, especially in New Orleans, has always been a slow time for businesses here. And that's not just restaurants. It's many types of local businesses. So it's always been a time of the year where we have to be really creative and think of new and interesting ideas to put out there that are going to drive people in. But ever since COVID, you know, I think tourism here has slowed down. Just like attendance numbers in general to the city have slowed down over the last couple of years. So it's being extra creative and, you know, how can we really get the local people? And a lot of the locals leave town because it's so hot. So it's, you know, there's a lot of challenges that they face. And it's just, you know, making sure that there's consistency, you know, internally, operationally, and then elevating all of that using PR and marketing. But yeah, it's, you got to be really creative.
Yeah, cool. Because you keep, and the word I keep hearing coming out of your mouth is creative, you know? And so like, you know, when you're saying creative, what does that exactly mean? Like what are some of the things that you've done that have really hit like in these last few years?
So, you know, I think it's just looking at every individual business, things will be different, obviously, but looking at what that business is doing currently and thinking about opportunities that you might have that are being missed.
Well, let's say like food, for instance, like restaurants.
So, you know, I work with Grigri. It's a wonderful restaurant on Magazine Street. Great chef.
Shout out to Grigri.
Love you, Chef Eric. And they're are always well known to have great food. They, you know, always have really great traffic, but the summertime's hard. You know, a lot of their business is outside. They have an amazing balcony that overlooks Magazine. That's a large portion of their seating. So you got to keep things cool. So I feel like we always focus on, you know, a new frozen beverage for the summer. For Pride Month, we just released a flight of cocktails with cat head vodka that are multiple colors of the rainbow, where you can buy one or you can buy the whole flight. You know, it's always pushing ways to keep cool. Also pushing like coming to the bar, you know, pushing the happy hour. We have a really fun bar. We've got a chef's table downstairs that a lot of people don't realize that they can book. So kind of pushing that as a nice, cool indoor dining option. And then, you know, promoting that we have bands, things like that. But, you know, just finding ways to be creative. And also, if, you know, if there's something, a big splashy announcement that you can make, it's always finding like, okay, here's a slow time. What's something new that we can do? Like, is it a time to do a menu change? Is it a time to, you know, update the event space? Or can we create a moment? A moment that we might not have created if we didn't sit down and really think about it.
Because like when you create those moments, like where do you go for that outlet? You know, it's like what's like the best? Because like all the time, like me as a foodie, I'm always looking at like Eater, and it's like, you know, I'm like, all right, you know, what's but it's always so funny because like but I feel like they're always obsessed with like the new.
Well, Eater's changed a lot since COVID. There's a lot fewer people that are contributing to Eater, to where, you know, I feel like 10 years ago when I kind of first started in PR here, I guess it's even been longer than that. Eater was more of a resource that was updated like by the minute. You know, you'd send something into Eater and within 10 minutes it was up there. Even if it was just like a little tidbit, they would do like tidbit paragraphs. Whereas like today's news, and it would be, and you would have like multiple businesses included in it. To where Eater was a source where I'm like, okay, we have one new cocktail special. I'm gonna send it to Eater because I know that it's of interest to them, because it's what, you know, and Eater was always a site that my chefs that I work with would go to regularly and like look at updates and things. And now content has definitely slowed down. It's more of like a twice a week there'll be a feature. And like you were saying, it's and that's kind of how a lot of the food coverage is now, which is hard, is a lot of it is new openings, who's closing, a new chef, a new cookbook, and it's the big new and now rather than just so and that's kind of been where the transition is. For example, like with the cocktails, with it being summer, my initial thought 5 years ago would be, all right, it's summertime, let's cool down. And I would do a pitch where it's like, cool down with these New Orleans restaurants. And you'd send one pitch to the media saying, like, here's some spots that are doing some really cool summer drink specials, frozen drink at Gree, XYZ at this restaurant. And then you would basically help create a roundup that the writers could then use and build upon with other restaurants. But you're giving them like a start where it's hey, I'm basically helping you create an article for you, giving you multiple resources, and all you have to do is like tack on a few more.
Yeah.
But a lot less of that type of coverage is coming out. I think it's just because there are fewer writers working in all of these spaces. So they are having to focus on more of the new now, what's opening, unfortunately, what's
the
closing.
Broad strokes,
and less of the creative angles due to the time. Like the most romantic restaurants for Valentine's Day or, spooky stuff for Halloween, that kind of stuff. There's less than that or less of that than there used to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because everyone's spread so thin.
Yeah.
So then it's, it's determining what is best to push to the media versus what makes more sense for social.
Right.
So a lot of times, for the Pride Cocktails at Gree, we really just did a big social push.
Right.
We tagged a lot of influencers. I sent a couple of notes to some media that I thought would be interested or into it. But we knew that the most attraction was going to come from social. And the media that's interested, I made sure to tag in the post and then they could get the information there.
That's so interesting. It's almost like, it's kind of like, feels like the world is all converging into social media.
I know. It's scary to rely on it as much as I feel like we all do. But it's the way that things work right now. And, advertising's always been like a little bit of a sticky subject for me. It's there's so much advertising that I do not think is worth it. But I do feel like advertising or forming partnerships on social media are so worth it because it's where everyone's scrolling. You look in the back of a magazine or back of a weekly publication and they just have the classified, the ad section. People just skip over that part. They throw that part away. So it's figuring out
if they even read it in the first place.
Exactly. So it's like, where can we create these ad opportunities or promotional opportunities that people are actually going to read? It's like the advertorial where it's like editorial content, but it's being paid for. It's kind of like that where you're creating like somewhat of an ad moment via social or an ad campaign. Like if there's a new happy hour and we're inviting multiple influencers in over the course of a couple of months, they're all promoting this happy hour. And so over a month, if you have 6 influencers promoting it, it becomes somewhat of an ad campaign because it's being flashed up by multiple people over a course of time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is like, do you think it's more value? Do you feel like your Rolodex is becoming more so influencers from the past being more journalists? Now it's like is it more valuable to know influencers than it is to know journalists now?
It's tough. I mean, I think there's a big value in both. Consistency wise, sometimes I feel like social, it's more consistent because you're rolling out your own coverage and you can get others to help you with coverage. That's the constant. And then the media is like the icing on the cake where you're getting these, rather than getting smaller hits more often, the goal now is to get like a good big hit less often. It's not like it's like one a month or something. You can get a lot. And I think now too, it's just going way beyond New Orleans, which has always been a focus, but now it's a focus more than ever because the local options, there's just fewer of them. And I imagine that's how it is in every city because a lot of the smaller publications just have to cut back. And even the big ones cut back. But it's just, it's just you just have to find them. It involves a lot of research, figuring out who's writing about the stuff that you're pushing.
Well, that's interesting too. I never thought about that angle. I mean, with all of these things, festivals, food, music, like all of these also rely on people that, because especially we're a tourist city, especially. So it's like, are you suggesting that you're also out there researching other, potential influencers that might come visit and then trying to get them to come do stuff like that? And like, how do you do all that? Like, what's the...
I mean... Depending on who it is, a lot of influencers that are traveling will we'll reach out to restaurants or events like within that town saying like, hey, I'm coming to town. So that happens a lot. For Hangout Fest, for example, because Gulf Shores, where the festival is located, is a very big tourist destination.
Right.
Majority of the properties that are in Gulf Shores are rental condos, hotels, that kind of thing. So they really rely on tourism because the local community is there, but there's so much opportunity for visiting. So like when promoting a festival like Hangout, we, over the last couple of years, we've created a really big influencer program. And this year, especially, it was the largest that it's ever been, where we had, I don't know, like 50 influencers or something come. And we created a really great package for them where, we would do a ticket exchange, VIP or higher. And the VIP program at Hangout's fantastic. It's like food and drinks included, amazing access. You have pools by the main stage.
You had me at pool.
I hate to say it, but I think it's the best festival VIP experience that you can have.
Wow. Shout out to Hangout Fest.
Yeah, shout out to Hangout Fest. Love y'all so much. But everything went so smoothly this year, and all the feedback that we got was that it was a really worthwhile experience for all of them because it's top notch. And, they would provide us great content and we would contract something out. And I think all of them really went above and beyond because once you get there, you're like, this is so amazing that I want to do more. Yeah. It's a space that just provides so much opportunity for content that it's really easy to hit those contracted posts and then want to go above and beyond because there's just so much. It's such a visual, so fun. I think once they realize like how great the VIP amenities are, it just gets everyone really excited. But, so of course for something like that, there really was only one or two local influencers, and that was, there might've been like a Gulf Shores influencer and then like an Alabama influencer. Yeah. So we go far beyond. We had a really great handful of New Orleans influencers that did such a good job this year. We loved having them. And then, we had, we did a lot of Baton Rouge. We actually had a lot of LSU gymnastics team members because the LSU
people love these people.
Blowing up.
That is crazy.
Blowing up.
It's like all right, LSU, you get those influencers.
That was a really fun, like kind of new aspect where a lot of them expressed interest, and we were like, well, hey, why don't we extend it to not the whole team, but it was anyone that wanted to go pretty much. And we got them a condo and they did. It was great. It was fantastic. But we had influencers.
You should have had a reality show of this condo, like LSU, Hangout Fest.
Loved to have gotten there. But we had influencers from all over, like, the New Yorks, the LAs, the random states in between, all come out and experience it. And it was fantastic. So, that's awesome. A lot of it's doing a lot of research, finding people that are interested in music or festivals, and then really also to researching each influencer and who their audience is. Because obviously it's like we want to figure out the audiences that are going to be most likely to be interested in our fest. So sometimes it isn't even about what type of content they do. It's like we had food influencers, we had, lifestyle influencers, we had New Orleans specific influencers because we knew that their audiences were people that would be interested. Like New Orleans is great because it's a 3-hour drive. It's, it's quick, it's easy. And then, the influencers from all across the world have much larger reaches because we do have people from across the U.S. that come to hang out. So it's just finding like a variety of people. And it isn't even just who their audiences are. It's really like who they are as a person and do these influencers reflect like the hangout spirit. Yeah. So we just try to find like a lot of different types of people that we feel like have good vibes. Yeah, because Hangout's all about good vibes. It's good vibes.
Oh, what? Is that the tagline?
It's just, hanging out.
All right. Well, because my curiosity, and the last thing I'll say about that is with these influencers, they come in, you just have them do their thing, or do you like dictate things to them?
Yeah, we coordinate stuff in advance, and we kind of contract out like what the responsibilities are. A lot of the influencers we got involved way before, like back in November or December, when the lineup is released. And so they'll help us do like a little bit before and then coverage during. It's all mapped out. And then we give them their tickets and we say, go do your thing. You cover the way that you want to cover. Just here are some requirements. And like I said, pretty much all of them, like 99% of them went way above and beyond what was required because there's just so much to capture, it's like a content creator's dream over there. But it's all kind of coordinated in advance. And then we really just give them the freedom to do more of like go experience it on your own and tell us like how you
Your
feel like
story
everything
behind it,
went
yeah.
right. So it's not like we're creating the experience for them. It's like we're just giving them the tickets and then saying you go create your own experience. And that way we're kind of getting different coverage from everyone.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Because it's like through their eyes without like any control. Like we're not telling them what to do or like who to go see or so there's a lot of different ways that you can experience the fest because there's so much music and so many different areas. So it's cool to kind of see like what each influencer ends up enjoying the most or what aspects of it like excite them the most.
I mean, it sounds like all rainbows. I mean, was there any pitfalls at all? Or?
With the influencer program? Absolutely not. It went
Really?
It went amazing. Wow. I don't think there was any issues.
Okay.
Media is like a different story. I'm working with them a lot closer. We're doing artist interviews, things like that. It was amazing as well. There was like a couple of just little hiccups that were just operationally that we fixed and they're going to be great next year. But overall, like they have a great experience too. It's just their experience is completely different from the influencer. Like the influencer, we want them to see it as just a regular attendee to where the media has different exposure. Like the photographers have access to the press pit so that they can get the good shots up front. And we have a media lounge and that's where we coordinate artist interviews and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're both getting the true experience. Just media has like a little bit more of a, not necessarily backstage, but like a little bit more of like insider access just because we're actually coordinating interviews and working with them on creating these stories that they're then going to be publishing. So I think that the influencer coverage is like a lot more organic. Not that the media coverage isn't, but we're working very closely with the media to whether it's like capturing those moments or having those interview moments, giving them talking points, keeping them updated on like attendance numbers, things like that. So that we're giving them all the content that they need to like put together a piece and then they'll put their spin on it and give like an honest review of it as well. Wow. Like they can give a bad review if they want, but nobody does because it's so great.
I love it. Well, I mean, so last question, because I'm just curious. Going into 2025, ending out 2024.
Yes.
Which seems crazy.
Oh my gosh, is it already the end of the year?
No, it's getting close. What are you going to do more of?
Ooh, that's a good question. So actually, I know the answer very specifically. What I'm going to do more of is research. So research is something that a lot of people have no idea is a big part of PR. I remember when I first declared that as my major, there was like a research class and I'm like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to do research all the time in PR, but you have to research to really understand the people that you're trying to connect with, the opportunities that you're trying to connect with, because there are fewer writers and reporters and I mean, influencers are, there's so many amazing ones, but you want to make sure that whoever you're reaching, whether it's a writer, a reporter, an influencer, a content creator, you want to make sure that you're appropriately reaching them, that it's a writer that covers the information that you're pitching, that the story makes sense for them, because the last thing that you want is to send a story and to get the response that says like, this isn't my area, wrong person. Sometimes they're happy to connect you with someone. Sometimes they'll just delete your email. It's very important to know because there are less opportunities, the opportunities that you do go for, you want to make sure are really accurate and on point, and that you're giving them the exact information that would mean the most to them or engage them the most. Because, I mean, it could just take a headline in your email, like your subject line. If you type the wrong words, they could just delete it. So it's really getting to learn about these people that you're trying to work with and communicate with and making sure that what you're sending them is super important to them. Also, just not even research into the writers, but just researching into opportunities and strategies. Like, you can research how other people are doing things, just research into the PR world. I'm something in music that I'm really trying to work on a little bit more. I think we've talked about this already, but I'm a member of the Recording Academy that puts the Grammys on. And it's like, I want to know, like, what are people's strategies to get that Grammy? There's a strategy. It's not just you submit music and then you win. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's, I was just talking with an artist the other day. It's like, what should your strategy be with your end goal of getting a Grammy in 2 years? Where should we begin? I have this music. What's the strategy of releasing it? What is that timeline? Should you do singles? Should you do an album? how far in advance should you do it if you're trying to get a Grammy into, there's all these things that I have an idea of, but would love to learn more about. So that's something that I just kind of started really diving into and have been thinking about it for a while, but just kind of got re-energized the other day talking with a musician friend of mine. So, doing research like that, where it's, once again, thinking outside of the box. It's like you work with an artist and the goal isn't just to get them press, but it's like, how can we use that press to then get something bigger? Like, how can we get these local artists in New Orleans outside of the city and, help them grow? And something like winning a Grammy, where it's like, it's not necessarily a PR responsibility, but PR can play a big role into it, because it's like you're releasing all this music, you get good coverage, and the coverage helps gain the credibility amongst your other musician peers who are then voting for you. So, I think research is something that you forget about when you've been in the PR world for such a long time, because a lot of it can just be like, you do the same thing every day, you send the same emails, you're talking with the same people, but then you have to remember, like, there's so much that I could learn out there. So taking the time to research, and then it brings new ideas and it kind of re-energizes you, is something that I'm going to really work on over the next year.
Research in 2025. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
All right.
Can't wait.
Well, if anyone else wants to research Emily, where would they find you on
You can find me
interwebs?
at emilydiament.com, Emily Diament on socials, Emily Diament all around. I'm there.
Emily Diament all around. You heard it here first, folks. Well, thanks again for joining me, Emily.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see everybody else.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning into the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This episode of Make Marketing Make Sense is brought to you by Comfystone. If your business needs organic social media video content, video ads, or video podcasting, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, this is Make Marketing Make Sense.